Thank you so much. Everybody's been super patient, and technology is a gift, and we're just going to continue looking at it that way. And since we have already gone through who I am and the fact that I am also a human and a single mom and have been through, like I said, domestic violence and the issues of suicide and um, abuse and all kinds of things in my own life. I'm not just a psychotherapist who's learned through books. I have a lot of life experience. And Phyllis gave the introduction. We all saw where you all are from all over our country right now, which is super cool to have you all join us. And we already talked a little bit about how holidays can be super stressful, lonely, sad, depressing, but they also can be full of joy, full of fun, full of freedom and life. And a lot of you might be thinking, well, that's not my case. And it's really hard this year. COVID has prevented a lot of people from the normal connections that they have had with being out in society and feeling connected to others. So I want to encourage everybody today to think about the fact that you are the creators of your reality. You are the creators of your experience. And I want to teach you how to do that. I want to teach you how to be empowered, how to design the life that you want. And the type of therapist that I am, I'm very solution focused. I want to create the good things in life that you do want. And so it's important to embrace everything that comes up for you. The fact that the contrast, the stuff you do not like, can be what defines and refines what you do want. So when I asked you earlier what you want from your holidays, you in your own at your own home, you have a pen and a paper out, you defined what you want your holidays to be like. Now, let me tell you this, that some of you that wrote in the chat, and we'll get the chat back up and running, I want you to be able to still ask your questions and write down your concerns, because a lot of times people think, well, pardon me, my holidays are going to be sad and awful. Well, what we say they're going to be is exactly how it will turn out, which is why I want you to take a moment to write down intentionally, specifically what you want your holidays to be like. And so I am always teaching people the tools they need in order to create the life that they want. And that's going to be by making it happen. We do have the power to make it happen. And one of those things you can do to ensure that you have the power to execute what you want is to commit to the specific action steps that will make it happen. So, for instance, if you say, well, I want my holidays to be peaceful, what are 3 things that you personally can do that do not require anybody or anything in order to make your holiday peaceful? So an example would be, well, when I go to this family function, there's conflict and there is a lot of tension. Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to commit to looking at the good, positive aspects of this situation by thinking about what I do like about these people instead of all of the past situations that were really painful or difficult. So I'm going to be very intentional about committing to saying 3 compliments to Auntie Jen and Uncle Joe and my sister when we go to this holiday function. And that may sound a little bit, well, I'm not sure how that comes across, but that's where you have power. That's where you can create the kind of holiday that you want without the stress of what normally comes with it. We're going to talk a little bit about a concept that I called getting out ahead of it. It's an Abraham Hicks term that I really love, and it's GOAOI. That, and I will, like I said, we will be discussing what that means a little bit more later, but it's really getting out ahead of the events so that you set yourself up for success. So to begin and to be clear, you write down the words that you want to be able to describe your ideal dream holiday season. And once you have those words written down, underneath each word, you can write what are 3 things that you actually commit to doing to create that experience. So for instance, Patrice wrote to be open-minded. And open-minded would be you're gonna be specifically focusing on things that you love and accept about people. You're going to talk, this is just an example, you're going to talk less and listen more when people are speaking around you, and you're going to be maybe open to feedback. So that would be a very hands-on, practical solution as to how to create more peace and less stress during those times. So let's see here. Boundaries, limits, and expectations. Holy moly, are these so important around the holidays in order to create more peaceful, enjoyable holidays. And let's see here. So everybody can still see the boundaries, limits, and expectations sheet that is in front of them on the screen. Can you just type yes if you can still see that? Everybody has to get to their chat. Okay, super. Thank you, everyone. So boundaries, limits, and expectations. So the first thing you want to know about a boundary is it's basically gaining clarity. What you want is to be crystal clear about what is okay with you and what is not okay with you. Here's another practical exercise that I teach people in my practice. Make a list on the left side. Think about what is not okay with me during this holiday time. For instance, it's not okay that we have conflict. It's not okay that we don't discuss the budgets, or we don't discuss, where we're going to be or whose house we're going to be. And then on the other side, what is okay with you? So you can also put what you don't want on one side and what you do want. And that is going to help you clarify, and understand what your particular boundaries are. A lot of times people say, well, I don't know what it is. I don't know what my boundary is. This will help you define what you want and what you don't want, what is okay with you and what is not okay with you. And when you can do that, you'll really start to understand that you can ask for more of what you want, and you can stop doing things that you don't want. So one of the things that we need to talk about is, why aren't people comfortable with boundaries? Well, I certainly understand why. I want to hear from you. What do you think? Why are people not comfortable with boundaries? Why do they not like to say no or to set limits? Okay. I have some people that are private messaging me that are saying because they don't like conflict. Fear of hurting others, absolutely. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. Their fear of not being liked or accepted. They don't want to be the bad guy. Absolutely. Nobody likes to be the one to be firm and clear, especially when you have families that are not used to having good boundaries. And a lot of families do not have a healthy lifestyle of being able to speak their mind and having the other person say, oh, well, thank you for sharing. They're used to being maybe criticized if they speak their mind and say what they want and say what they don't want, and they feel insecure about it. And so People don't like to speak up. They don't like to have a voice if they're not used to it. And yes, a lot of times when you're a strong person and you're very clear about what you want, you're labeled as aggressive, or you're labeled as, the mean person. And what's really great, we're going to talk about how to be accountable to having a voice and speaking your mind and having good boundaries. So I want to know, let's see, somebody say, sometimes I don't know what I want until it's too late. That is exactly a perfect point, which is why we're going to get out ahead of it. And if you do the things that I'm asking you to do during this workshop, you will transform your life and you will have a better holiday season. So the degree to which you will experience joy and success is exactly related to the degree that you involve yourself in doing the work, especially the tools that I'm giving you right now. And so I do want to talk about, why are boundaries so beneficial? They are so critical. They're key. And one of the biggest reasons why we want to have healthy boundaries, we want to be able to know where I stop and you begin, and where you stop and I begin. We're separate individuals. Everybody in your family and your friend group, they are separate people. So we want to establish healthy boundaries of what's okay and what's not okay and what's expected, is to develop healthy relationships, because boundaries define who you are and who I am separately. People have their own independent journey. So really, a boundary is a guideline for how you're treated in a relationship. So I really want to emphasize this one point. What you tolerate is what you teach. So if you're tolerating poor behavior or somebody to walk all over you, you are teaching them to do so as well. Now, I want to talk, like I said, all of these topics, I could talk for days on all of these topics, and I would love to be able to work with each of you, even on a deeper level. But for now, I want to just basically say that you are entitled to be seen, you're entitled to be heard, you're entitled to be respected and valued and appreciated. So a lot of people, here's a misconception about boundaries, and this is going to help you set appropriate boundaries. When you decide with utmost clarity what you want and what is okay with you, then it is okay to just simply be able to state it in a clear, concise fashion. So, for instance, I had a couple that they fought every time they went into the same car, but it was a long distance away. And finally, one of the partners in the relationship said, I have decided I'm going to take my own car. And that was something that was very hard for this person to do, because the event was far away. They didn't want to hurt their partner's feelings, but they finally decided, I want the control about when I am able to leave the party, when I'm able to, when I don't feel comfortable anymore, I can get up and go. And then there won't be a fight on the way home. I can be mindful and peaceful, and I can drive. And yes, it's a little bit of an extra effort, but it's a boundary that person found very valuable. So when you decide what's okay with you and what you want, you commit to stating it in a very kind and respectful way. The misconception that I was talking about is that a lot of people think that a boundary is, being so firm and so mean and saying it with a tone of voice that's super aggressive. And that is not a boundary. I always tell people boundaries can be spoken in a super loving, kindful, matter of fact kind of way. That's something that I want you to remember, that the matter of fact, loving tone, like a non-negotiable tone, because if something is not okay with you, then it's important for you to say that. So is there a question that anybody has about boundaries before we move on? Because like I said, we can talk for days on boundaries, but does that give you a good idea of just clarifying what you want, being able to state it in a non-negotiable way that's very kind and respectful? And let's see, does anybody have questions in the chat? I'm looking at the chat right now. Yes, and Sandy was saying I let people walk all over me because she's used to it and she never spoke up. Well, I want everybody to make sure you remember that you are worthy of a voice. You are valuable as your own entity, and nobody has to approve of what you want. You're entitled to ask for and have what you want. And a lot of people do not like, you know, maybe the fact that you're asking for what you want and for what's acceptable and not acceptable to you. But really, like I said, it is your life. And so we don't want to teach people that they can walk all over us by giving in and letting people wear us down. So let's see, any other questions that I'm looking at for boundaries? And a great book too for people who want to maybe dive more into boundaries is a book by Clouds and Townsend, and it's called Boundaries, and there's a new edition. And that's a really good one for people that have a hard time speaking up. But really it starts with worthiness, knowing that you are worthy and that you are enough to be able to say what you want. And like I said, and like some of the people in the comments said, you don't always know what you want. And sometimes it's too late, which is why I'm emphasizing that you want to get out ahead of it by writing down what is okay with you before going into a family gathering or a family event. And so, for instance, one of the things you might think of is, well, somebody always talks to me in a really mean and disrespectful way. You know, one of the things you can say is that for your own boundaries, well, when that happens, if that happens, but because maybe it happens every holiday event, I'm going to make a decision to make sure I say thank you to the host and thank you for having me. And then I'm going to make my way home because I don't want to stay in an environment where I'm feeling criticized or where I'm feeling belittled or where I'm feeling that basically it just does not feel good. So I would love to see that each and every one of you establishes maybe the problem areas that you've experienced in the past with going to these different events or during the holiday season, because now we're not going to so many events, but still we experience the same kind of conflict inside of ourselves. So what is it that you need to address? How do you get out ahead of it? And what boundaries will you commit to setting? And by the way, I would love to help any one of you with this. You always have the freedom to email me, especially being a guest of Zonta. Email me and just ask the question. I'm happy to write an article about it. I'm happy to elaborate upon whatever it is that you feel you would benefit from expanding your life to be able to thrive even more and to not live the subpar mediocre life that a lot of people choose. And I do want to commend you again for setting the boundary of your time today, basically carving out this opportunity and saying to, you know, turning off your phones, that's a boundary, and not letting people influence your undivided attention here today. So that's really good that you set the boundary, that self-respect boundary for you. So let's see. One other person just want to mention before we move on from boundaries is that, yes, they did not have a voice growing up. So that's very typical that we carry. Our brain is a big computer neurological machine that every experience we've had is basically locked into our cellular structure. So we repeat what we know. And this is something that you have to be able to reprogram your brain. And is it going to be done in this, 50-minute presentation? No, but you'll have the tools to practice every day to be able to reprogram your brain so that you do little by little learn to speak up and have a voice, learn little by little that I am worthy, important, and valuable. I do deserve to be seen and heard, and I respect myself, therefore I say it, and I'm not looking for the approval from anybody else. That takes time when you've grown up and you're a people pleaser or you're very approval based. Boundaries are really hard. So I do recommend that you do some work, because boundaries will change your life. That's for sure. So we're going to move on to the next section. And this goes to a different kind of boundary. It's budgeting your money without guilt. I'm not going to get too deep into the money aspect, but I do want to say that, like Dave Ramsey says, he's a big financial guru that I highly respect. And cash is king. Setting your budget for who you want to spend money on is going to be an important step to making sure you are creating a peaceful holiday season. One of the biggest stressors and one of the biggest depressants is financial woes and the inability to pay for things. That's a looming factor that haunts a lot of people. And I think that if you don't get out ahead of it and go into the holidays with a clear budget in mind, now that means you write down everybody that you would like to do something nice for, and you basically look at what is a realistic financial budget for you, real money, not just credit cards, because credit cards you can pay, for that $20 gift. If you aren't able to pay off your credit card in time, then you're going to be paying, $30 or $40 for that gift over time. And you don't want to be doing that just because you have a hard time or you feel guilty that, somebody's done something nice for you and you aren't able to contribute back equally. Let me just tell you that for your own peace of mind and to create less stress in your life and to eliminate the feelings of guilt, think about things you can do that matter, such as the most valuable thing you could ever give anybody is your time. So could you think of something to do where you're giving of yourself in a way that feels like you're fulfilling that desire to give? And it doesn't have to be something that's going to create more trauma or stress from your lack of ability to be able to financially do something for someone. So let's see here. Any questions on financial boundaries and budgeting? Because there are things besides your time. There's baking, there's making things together, there's events that you can do. So if you are going to give monetary gifts, my big piece of advice for you is only spend what you can literally take out of your bank account where it's not going to it's not going to threaten your financial peace, because that is one of the biggest stressors of all time for people. The book, again, that I would mention just for the two things somebody asked about boundaries, and I'm going to say also Dave Ramsey for Financial Peace University. And I do believe we have somebody on here who teaches that. Lee, I can also connect you up with that, but you can also type in your zip code Financial Peace University. That helps with budgeting. And again, I don't want this just to be about how to create less stress or more success this holiday. I really want this workshop to be about tools that you can implement in your life to make a change that really does last forever. It's a philosophy and a way of life. So the book is Boundaries by Towns and Cloudson, and then Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey. Those are super, super great things. And Lisa Wambolt says, yes, she's here to help with FPU, which is Financial Peace University. So maybe, Lisa, if you're willing, put your number, because Financial Peace University, I highly suggest that not just budgeting for the holidays is a good idea, but for your life. Change your life now so that you can have a fantastic financial life later. So, but we're sticking to the holidays. We don't want you to add to your life stressors by overspending. And the no without guilt stems from you thinking one important thing, which is, I know that if I put myself into a financially risky position, I'm going to be a very unhappy person. And when I'm an unhappy person, I don't have the resources, the tools, the gifts, the knowledge, the patience, the compassion that I would like to give to this world. So for me, the boundary of, and this is for everybody, for me, the boundary of I'm not going to overspend is self-respect. It's valuing me enough to know that I'm an asset to this world when I'm not stressed out. So therefore, I'm going to say no to this and no to that. And I'm going to feel like I'm doing it for the greater good, for the greater cause. And maybe that is something that could be helpful to get yourself out of that guilt feeling. And so something about, maybe if you all have kids and you want, you feel bad about saying no to something special that they want. Part of what I would recommend that you do, I have, by the way, a phenomenal effective parenting, effective life course that's not just a parenting course, it's a philosophy of life. And this is a little bit of what I'm going to teach you right now, is that if you have kids and they want something and you say, you don't just say no, or you're so needy, or gosh, you always want so much. What I would recommend you doing is taking, like I said, your most valuable commodity, which is your time, and sitting down with them to be able to share with them that you love to give them everything and you wish you could give them the world. And since you have an allotted budget of money coming in and what you spend, this is the budget. And let's talk about things within that budget that I could actually do it for you for the holidays, Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. What can we do within this budget that would be fun for you? So see what I'm saying about the boundaries, that you don't have to be, defensive and angry that your kids want to ask and ask and ask. That's their job, is to ask for more and more and more. So it's our job to be able to say, no, but I would love to do something fun within this budget. And you can also, by the way, use that opportunity for what they're wanting and help them devise a plan of how to organize their time and their budget to be able to get what they want. So not only are you learning this valuable, tool for you, you're also going to be able to share it with your children. Okay, so let's see here. Mindful habits. Oh my goodness. Mindfulness is key. So I want to give everybody a very quick definition of what mindfulness is. It's basically an acute awareness, a hyper awareness of this present moment of what's happening with acceptance. So let me explain a little bit more about what I mean. When we're stressed out and we're fearful, we are not in a mindful present state. We're actually thinking about events that happened in the past. We're worried that they might happen again. And then we're projecting things into the future. So what we want to be able to constantly be doing is bringing ourselves into a present mindful state. That, I'm going to just tell you one very quick way to do this. Actually, I'll tell you two quick ways to do this. And really, it can shift your whole energy, your whole perspective. One of the things is to notice where you're feeling it in your body when you get stressed out. And if you're feeling anything negative, any tightness in your chest or any shoulder tension or any headaches or anything like that, your body is like screaming at you, take a mindful moment. It's saying, please, please do something to bring yourself back into the here and the now. And so what you can do is a breathing technique that I love to teach everybody, and you would do 10 cycles of what's called 4-7-8. And that is something that UCLA did a study that it actually kind of resets your neurological function. Because when you get stressed out, by the way, your brain squirts chemicals into your system that tells you be very, very afraid, alert, alert. And we want to now shift our brain chemistry to come back into a very calm, centered, rational place, because our brains have different function. Every part of our brain is so complicated and it has so many different functions. But the very easy way to explain it is when you get stressed out, the old emotional, more reptilian part of your brain gets triggered, and those fear, anxiety, cortisol, adrenaline, all those chemicals are released into your brain, and then it stops us from being rational people. We don't want to have our ability to choose rational things shut down. But if we don't stop and take the mindful moment to do something to bring us back into the present moment, then we are always in reactive mode. And we don't want to be in reactive mode, repeating old patterns of our past. We want to be able to actually respond differently. So one of the best ways to do it is notice your body is feeling tension or stress, and you don't even need to figure out why you're feeling that way. But what you can do is the breathing technique that UCLA studied, the 4-7-8. So I will have everybody just try this now at home. You exhale everything out of your body, and then you inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. So you would count as you inhale through your nose. You would hold your breath for 7 seconds. And then you would slowly exhale out of your mouth for 8 seconds. And you would do this 10 times. You would see that after that 10th time, your brain quickly resets. If you're not in a very charged emotional place, it takes 55 minutes for your brain to come back to a normal chemical state after you've been very, very, very stressed out, angry, sad, any of those things. To get this mindful position or peaceful place back, you can reset yourself through the 4-7-8 breathing, but you can also, like I said, know that if you're very emotional, you maybe one of you commented in the chat box earlier that you sometimes realize these things too late. It's never too late. Just know that chemically speaking, your brain requires at least 55 minutes of you coming out of the stressor, away from the stressor, and into a peaceful, mindful state. Okay, so that's one of the things. The other thing that's a very quick way to get back into nature, back into a mindful state, is to go out into nature, just unplug. So I always think of ourselves as this extension cord of energy, right? We're this ball of energy, and we have an extension cord that we plug into certain things. We can either plug into negativity and stressful things. And I always say, if you notice yourself there and you're plugged into all this emotional stress, picture that electrical cord being pulled from the wall and unplugging yourself from that And then think about what you want to take that plug and plug into that feels positive, that feels good. A lot of people say, oh, be positive. Nobody knows what that means. What that means is do what brings you more joy. Do what feels better, that feels healthy, that feels good, that feels fulfilling. When you can do that, then you change that stress into the success that we're talking about. But it starts with the mindful habits. So I've given you two, the breathing, which is the 4-7-8, and doing 10 cycles just to reset yourself. And the main thing is to unplug from the stressors and plug into things that feel better, things that feel good. So this brings me, actually, I want to check the chat just to make sure that anybody, let's see, yoga is great, forces you to breathe. It sure is, that's for sure. Okay, so self-care. Self-care is key. Oh my goodness. I want to hear, what do you people, men and women, because I think we have both on the call, what do you do for self-care? What do you do for you to take care of you in a better way? I want to hear some things. I know people are going to say bubble bath, yoga. Anya says yoga. I personally, every morning, sit outside and start my day with an intention and quieting my mind and meditating, just letting things go. Let's see, more stuff is coming in. A fancy mask, bath, candles, relaxing music. What else? I hope you all have a good self-care routine. Hiking, walking. What else? So let's see here. The idea of you taking time for you, I think a lot of people would say, I can't. It's just, I feel selfish. So here's something I really hope that you will listen to very closely, that self-care is not selfish. In fact, I fully believe, and I hope I can convince you of this, that not doing self-care is actually selfish. So what I mean by that, if you don't take the time to do what you're doing, like right now, and gather up more information to create the best possible life for you, do you think that you're of your best value to help other people, to give to other people? Do you think that you can actually serve the world in the way that you say you want to by depleting yourself of what you need to do to take good care of your emotional, physical, spiritual well-being? I don't think so. So, oh, Hillary says, hug the dog. By the way, therapy, dogs, animals, cats, I mean, animals in general. I just wrote an article on delisediaz.com on how therapeutic animals are. So self-care, oh my goodness, that's a great one. If you have an animal, investing and taking care of it and petting it and touching it and loving it unconditionally is a wonderful connection of love that a lot of people are looking for. Julia says, well, I'll just say somebody here said, start by making her bed. That is so wonderful. Self-care. I never feel better than when my home and my bedroom and everything is in order. That, by the way, I just want to add this to the self-care section here in this talk. Take the time or hire the people to help you organize and declutter your life in your home. I think that you would find so much more peace when your environment is clutter-free and clean. And that's just a really wonderful piece of advice for anybody that, and by the way, you don't need to always hire somebody. Sometimes friends that you can call over to your house and say, I would love and appreciate you helping me with this today. So that's there's also asking for help. Let's see. Any questions that you have on self-care and how it is essential to your well-being? And if not, I'm going to say to you, please commit right now. I want you to write down right now one thing that you will do every single day for self-care. One commitment. It can change as you go throughout your days, of course, because you'll need different things. But what is one thing that you commit to today to bring you more joy, to take better care of you, to show self-respect? What will you do? And by the way, it doesn't have to be 5 hours long. So I know some excuses for people are, I don't have the time. Well, you can make the time by either getting up earlier or setting good boundaries to say, I'm going to have the next 30 minutes of quiet time. That's part of establishing the boundaries that we talked about through the holidays. Asking for help from people that you need, basically to complete whatever tasks that you want to do. And one of the things that's fantastic, and Wendy wrote it here, is get more sleep. Sleep is essential. When people come into my practice and they are having a hard time with anxiety or depression or whatever symptoms are holding them back, always we talk about sleeping as much as possible, 7 to 8 hours a day. That's a key foundation of self-care. Eating well. What you put into your body has an emotional impact on you. When you are eating all the sugars and all the carbs, your body goes into highs and lows and crashes. So self-care is learning how to put things that nourish your body into your life. Another thing that's the best antidepressant ever, I think, is exercise. Get outside and walk. Get outside in nature. It's a whole different experience when you can do that, when you can be one with nature. So let's see here. Having your hair done, nails, all these things. Let's see. Turn off the world for 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Just shut everything else out. It goes back to the boundaries that we talked about, which means that you do have self-respect. If you can have boundaries, that shows you're valuing you and you're showing yourself self-respect, which is going to create, when you respect you, it's going to create a happier, peaceful experience in this lifetime. So I would definitely encourage you to write something down today and do something every single day that brings you joy. One last thing I'm going to tell you that would be fun and beneficial for you to do with the self-care is to make a love list. So I have Delise's love list in a poster form on my closet door that says 20 things that I actually love to do that bring me joy. Because guess what? When you're in a bad mood or you're not feeling fantastic, your brain isn't thinking about all those inspirational, loving, fun things that you like. In fact, most people say, I don't know, and they just want to lay in bed. Well, I say make your love list ahead of time. And then when you're feeling like you're in a mood where you aren't very motivated, then the tool, the strategy is to go to your love list that you've written ahead of time of all the things that bring you joy and bring your heart, that warm, bubbly, delicious feeling. You're going to then pick something off that list and go do it. Because guess what? When you change your environment, you can change your whole chemical experience that's happening in your brain. Your brain actually has to move to a different pathway because it's now in a new environment. So that is one of the tools too for self-care. If you're not feeling so great, get up and change environments. So hopeful, like I said, we could talk forever on all of these topics. And I, as you can see, love talking about them. And I would love to see you start implementing these things to create more success and feel like you're thriving every day, not just surviving. So let's see here. All right, the coping strategy that I talked about, the GOAOI, get out ahead of it. That's a term I got from Abraham Hicks, and it is going into every new situation with an intention or a plan of how you want to feel. Because think about it, we go into a situation kind of unprepared, and then whatever comes our way is how we end up just automatically responding to it, like autopilot. We really do just operate from instinct of what we've learned in the past. So to change all of that, you use the mindful tool that I gave you, and you get out ahead of it by deciding what you want before you go into every new situation. How do I want to feel? What are the thoughts I would need to be thinking? That is one of the best tools you could ever use in your life in order to feel like you have more control out of your situation, rather than, oh no, here we go again, I better brace myself for what's coming. No, get out ahead of things, go in with your intention of what you want to feel and what you're going to create. I do, and by the way, there's another free tool I have now that I'm thinking about this on my DelisDiaz.com. When you subscribe, which is at the bottom of the website, there are articles that I have written, and one of them recently is on a morning routine. I strongly recommend that you go and download the template. It's free, and it's a template I made for you to set your intentions for the day, and then to think about all the things you would need to be thinking, feeling, and doing to create that experience. And then the 3 steps you're going to commit to for your day to be able to follow through with that creation of what you want to do. So, and I give examples in the article that I wrote on morning routines. You will see the examples, but I strongly recommend, if you want to change your life, then get that template and start doing the getting out ahead of it plan every single morning. So again, I want to be able to offer as many tools. I know there's tons of things I'm giving you right now, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by all the different things. I want you to decide what is one thing you're going to commit to changing your life to be more stress-free, and instead more of what you want, which is peaceful and easy and loving and fun and connected. So one step at a time. I always say, be very gentle with yourself, be kind instead of being so hard on yourself. We beat ourselves up a lot, I think, as people who come to programs who want to improve their life are typically people who I respect so much because they want to expand and evolve and grow. And they're people who are also taking responsibility for their lives. And they tend to be hard on themselves too, or a little bit more perfectionistic. And so I am a big proponent of teaching people how to be kind and gentle in their process. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, I learned all these things and I can't remember one of them, don't do that to yourself. What I want you to do instead is to say, well, because I do think this is going to be posted and recorded so that you can go back and you can say, I'm going to just commit to taking one thing at a time and layering things into my life. And little by little by little, you will see your life improve because you're committing to valuing yourself enough to put in the effort and the work to layer in a new habit. I do want to say something about habits that's very critical. Habits are not easy to change because, like we talked about earlier, the brain programming is so strong that our brains are wired with what we've done for so many years. And to change that is possible to create a new neural pathway in our brain, but that means you have to practice something that you want that's new for at least 90 to 120 days. I don't know way back when, and I don't know who did it, but they said, oh, create a new habit in 21 days. Forget that. I'm sure all of you know that when you try something new, it's about like 7 to 10 days before you are back to doing what you used to do. So it's a dedicated, committed practice of layering in a new behavior every single day. I mean, not a new behavior every day, but whatever behavior you want to add to your routine, practicing that behavior specifically for 90 days at least, then becomes second nature to you, then becomes, we say the neurons that fire together, wire together. So that means you're creating a new neural pathway in your brain to become natural to you, but only after practicing it for 90 days. So don't give up if you fall off course, because we're mostly off course, and the point is get back on, get back on, get back on. So that GOA strategy, GOAI, getting out ahead of things, knowing what you're setting your intention for ahead of time is what we want. So let's see here. Any questions about that before we move on to one of our last things, belief systems? Any questions about any of that? You're more than welcome to ask. Okay, well, we're going to move on to belief systems. Feel free to keep asking questions in the chat as we wrap up here. So belief systems, developing powerful belief systems is key. Everything we do is based off of a belief system. And so I want to give you a very brief definition of a belief, because some people think, I'm going to make it easy for you. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking over and over and over and over again. So if you want to change a belief system, you do need to change your thinking behind it. So for people who say, well, I don't know, it's hopeless, that's a belief system based off of a lot of old information that, well, I give up easily. Well, I feel defeated and therefore I don't want to try. And then they start thinking, well, I'm alone and I don't have any help. Those are all beliefs that are not going to serve your life. And one of the most effective way to change your life is to make sure you change your belief systems. And then do you see how everything I'm talking about is tied together? It is tied together by noticing that you don't feel good in life, which is what we talk about, the stress or the sadness or the anxiety or the different negative emotions. Noticing that those are thoughts you're thinking based on a belief system, and then learning how to change that by being mindful and getting out ahead of it. And someone asked the acronym GOAI, get out ahead of it. So the powerful change you can make is changing your belief system. One of my favorites is there might be a lot of problems, but there's always a solution, and we just need to find it. That's a belief system, instead of, oh, everything bad happens to me, or I've had awful luck all my life. Those are beliefs that will not serve you. And in fact, I would love to ask you, if you really want to do some great work, and like I said, what I work with people in my practice who come in individually to see me, we work on these things. The belief systems define and guide your life. If your life is not as satisfactory or as fantastic as you would like it to be, then you need to look at belief systems. What is operating at your foundational core thought process? That's huge. So you can go from I'm helpless to actually I'm quite capable. I may not know how to do this already, but I certainly have a lot of resources to figure it out. So can you see the difference with empowering beliefs versus very disempowered belief systems? And, oh, I'm worthless. I don't like feeling like people don't like me. I don't want to set boundaries. Well, actually, I am worthy, and I'm going to start treating myself like I'm worthy, and I'm worthy of having boundaries and speaking my mind, even if somebody else says that it is not true or it's not so. So the best thing you can do is challenge your own belief system. And, we have belief systems that are around money, that are around holidays, and for let's see, every topic in life, we have a belief system that's operating. And if you're not feeling good, then it's something to do with needing to change your beliefs. So mental, emotional, personal beliefs, I can't do it. I just can't get started. I don't have enough support. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough education. Those are all belief systems that if they're operating in your life, you're going to have obstacle after obstacle. So what you first need to do is challenge it, write it down. Take that faulty belief that is not serving your well-being, and then see what it's like to just write something that is also true, but it's the opposite. So for instance, I'm alone and I have no help. Well, you're on this group, and I am positive that the Zonta women and people that are involved would always want to be able to serve and support somebody else, even through encouragement. I'm always here, can reach out to me. There are resources online. So it's not true when you say, I don't have any help, I'm all alone. But if you feel that way, and that's your belief system that's operating, then you're going to create the stress and feel miserable. So I want to teach each and every one of you that you're deliberate creators. You create the life that you want and what you're experiencing by the thoughts you're thinking. So like I said, there's so much involved, but if you start with the basic things that I'm telling you to practice now, then you can certainly serve your well-being and feel empowered in every possible way in your life. Somebody says, do you have groups or classes on all these topics? Yes, I actually do. One of my best groups for this, if you're really ready to live an empowered, thriving life, is my Decide to Thrive retreats that I do every year. This one will be, I believe it's January 16th. It's not being marketed yet due to all of the uncertainty about locations and stuff from COVID, but we're scheduling it for January 16th. It's an all-day event. And it really digs deep into all of these tools that you can practically apply to your life to change your life, to absolutely transform your life. And nobody who is on this call is powerless to do so. You might feel like you're powerless, but there we go with that belief system. So let me just give you one last thing on a belief system. When you say, I don't know what to do, I can't do it, I feel lost, does that help you get solutions? No. It actually shuts down your brain, and the laws of the universe would show you evidence of what you're saying, which is, yep, here's another reason why you don't have support. Here's another thing that you can't do. And it shows you more of the same. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to shift your thought process to, like I said, just a little shift. I may not know all the answers, but I certainly know I can take the time and find them. I know that if I spend time just valuing myself more, then more solutions will come and more support will be available to me. I know that I could reach out and ask for support anytime I need to, when I'm ready. All of those things open the door to an actively successful life, and then it extinguishes the stress. So I think that is enough for sure to get everybody going on all the tools that they can use at a foundational level to create a successful life. And I'm going to just stop here and say thank you so much for the time and for investing in yourself and for learning different ways that you can get out ahead of things and set boundaries And my information is right there, delisediaz.com. You can email me at delise@delisediaz.com, and my phone number, the 661-904-0113 is my office number. So I am very, very happy to have been able to share these things with you all, because my passion is certainly helping people feel empowered and live a life that is not just a mediocre, substandard life. And too many people settle for that. And my whole mission and hope and goal and purpose is to help people find ways and create a life that they want. And that's about it. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Oh, and something I want to do too. Phyllis mentioned I have a game. I'm going to go through and kind of see who is chatting and commenting, and I want to give away one of my games. It's one of the best communication games. There's 180 different cards in here that I always tell people, you don't need to play it like the rules. Just take out the cards and hand them into, if you have a holiday gathering or family gathering. There's 180 different questions, moral questions, ethical questions, personal questions, and you can go as deep or as lighthearted as you want to answer, but boy, it gets the conversations going. And it only takes a couple cards and your whole room is booming with excitement. Oh, and I do want to say that anybody with Zonta that is watching this presentation right now, all you have to do is email me and say, I'm with Zonta, and you get 50% off all of the products. But I'm going to give that away. And anybody that needs a do's and don'ts of divorce manual, it's 42 tips of what to do and not do raising children in separate households. You can also get 50% off that as well when you mention that you were on this call and you were with Zonta. So let's see if there's any last questions. Oh, somebody said they played the game before on their last family vacation. It was great. And they did it on a car ride too. Yay. Well, I am very honored to be able to spend my Saturday morning with you. Thanks for bearing with the technical difficulties earlier. Out of Beth's control when her power goes out. It's part of learning the flexibility and being gentle with ourselves. So thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure, and feel free to reach out anytime. So thank you so much for having me.
So anyway, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Delise again for providing us with her great and sensible ways to create a stress-free holiday and really how to create a stress-free life.
Thank you.
After you log off in about 45 minutes, you're going to be receiving an evaluation form, which we would ask you to fill out because that's very important to us. It lets us know the workshop was relevant and helpful in issues that you are experiencing. Also, we will include on this the contact information to contact Delise, so you will have that to be able to register or, about the game, how to get information about all of that. So again, I would like to thank everyone for attending. Our regular Life Forward workshops will resume in January 2021. However, we may have a variety of webinars that will be presented via Zoom in the interim. And yes, you will have to register anew for each workshop that we present. So thanks again for coming.